Hi, Jausan back at you on Romantic Truth Television. We're going to discuss a topic that we touched on in the introductory video about infidelity and cheating. Now, one thing you must understand is that the premise of cheating has to do with one basic factor: boredom. There's a fatigue of routine, whether it's in a relationship or whether it's with the individual. There's this kind of drone that a person who cheats is trying to get away from in the relationship. Now, rarely will they tell you this, and rarely do they recognize it. But what it comes down to is there's a sense of comfort that they feel in that they can go out into another relationship with the mindset that the relationship that they have will be stationary, stagnant, and for whatever reason at their disposal. Now, there are some considerations. With men, they usually cheat with women for two basic reasons. One, of course, is sex. The other, of course, is what we call purging. That's where a guy will go, and you've heard of these stories, where they will pay a prostitute just to sit in a room and talk to her and tell her everything that's wrong with his marriage, with his wife, etc., 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 then probably sleep with her. The other, of course, is obvious: sex, and that's it. Now, with a woman, she has a more structured approach when it comes to cheating. She will take care of all the logistic concerns. Guys usually cheat locally. Sometimes they'll go and, drive a few miles, but for the most part, guys are going to cheat, within town or across town or something like that. They're rarely do they go out of their way, because for one thing, guys are cheaper than women when it comes down to actually thinking ahead on things. A woman, by the other hand, will go out and plan, have a storyline for her infidelity, have a methodology with it. Meet the guy maybe outside town, or meet him somewhere on a business trip or something like that. Guys do this as well. However, the difference is, with a woman, it's more discreet than it is with a guy. A guy will wind up being caught at some point, because we're just sloppy like that when it comes to cheating. Another thing, when a woman cheats, she usually has some sort of emotional involvement. There is always the probability of her falling for the other guy. Even though she's only having sex with him, there's a good chance that more than likely eventually those feelings and sentiments are going to go a little bit further. With a guy, he can turn it off, because what he can do is objectify a woman mentally. He could be sitting in the room with that prostitute or sitting in the room with another woman, and then he can always come back and just pull that veil over. Hey, you know what? She's somebody else's woman. I'm just here to get what I need to get and move on. A woman, on the other hand, is thinking from the standpoint, maybe this guy would be a better guy than who I'm with now. I will just have to see how things go. So a woman is a little bit more open when she does. Now, the thing is, though, a woman is a lot more strategic in her thinking when it comes down to plotting, the path to an infidelity. She's not going to sit there and then one day just decide to go out and just, go wild. Some do, but most often they don't. What will happen is she will structure it, and then when she does decide to make that step, she's making that step with a sense of confidence. And when she does, she's already thought it through in most cases about the repercussions, about the cover for it, as well as about an exit strategy, which guys don't usually think about. Guys will go in, do the deed, and then worry about the consequences later. If they get caught, oh well, because guys like to hang around for sex. If he's sleeping with a woman and she's constantly giving him sex, he's going to come back to the well until the well is dry. A woman, on the other hand, may start feeling guilty. She may decide at some point that, I need to end this, because I'm not going to have this emotional divide in my life between my partner and this other guy. And so she is more likely to make a decision whereas the guy will just go until the whole thing runs out. His decision is, I'm going to turn left and stay with this lady until I get caught. Now, with infidelity comes some other issues that people rarely think about. Of course, STDs, pregnancy, exposure I'm talking about to these things, to these probabilities. And there are also other issues, such as what happens to the friends that are associated with your relationship. How do they fall? Do they split? Do they all take one side, whether it's the victim or the perpetrator, so to speak? Those kind of things are usually weighed out later, but rarely are they weighed out during the whole process, because at that time the people are more concerned about fulfilling that need, whether it's a sexual need or an emotional need. Usually women have infidelity, well, participate in infidelity due to emotional need. Guys, usually due to physical need. They may have married a very attractive and nice woman, but she may not do the things in the bedroom that he would really like her to do, but may be too ashamed to ask her to do those things. So he may go and take that component of his personality outside the relationship and share it with another woman. Someone who's willing, who won't criticize, who won't judge. A woman, on the other hand, and some women do have this as well, where they will do certain things with other men that they won't do with their own man. One case in point, and I've had many women, especially African American women, tell me this, and that is they won't have oral sex with a black man, but they would with a Caucasian man. And the reason for that is, in their minds, the Caucasian man is a little bit more deserving than the African American man. Now, that's only a small group of women that think that way. But there are certain people that, actually take these little idiosyncrasies and actually ruin their relationships because of them. Now, there are some people who will go into a relationship and they will have these quirks or these things that they will not disclose to their partner. And when they get into the relationship, they will then come out and, reveal these things. And the partner is, of course, shocked, and a lot of times they're repulsed and they want to, either get a divorce or break up or whatever. And, and the whole thing comes down to, like I said in the first video, full disclosure is everything, but that will never happen. So again, that's one of those things that one of the partners may have decided that was maybe too tough for that other individual to handle in the relationship. So therefore, they decide to omit that and, suppress it, which is a common thing. People go into relationships and a lot of times they suppress certain parts of their personality in order to appeal to the other person. Get into the relationship, and then they feel as though once I'm in a relationship, once we're married, once we have children or whatever, then I can go and be myself. And this is the little game. It's like, it's like kids telling their parents they still believe in Santa Claus when they're, 15, 16 years old, just so that they can exploit the opportunity. Well, it's the same way when it comes down to relationships. People will do this in order to get in, because you've seen it. When people try to use this strategy, what usually happens is after they get into the relationship, the problem they have is that they can no longer suppress it because it's a part of them. And then they have to look at other means in order to, exercise this fetish, fantasy, or whatever you want to call it. And so infidelity is usually the avenue of choice, because what they do not want to do is to compromise what they already have in a relationship, because they want to have that one image with that individual. However, they have a dual image with another individual that's maybe totally different. And this is not, nothing new. Now, there's another aspect to this, and that's self-esteem. Women sometimes, as they get older, especially if they're in relationships, and they don't feel appreciated or feel emotionally neglected, it's not uncommon for them to step outside of the marriage in order to just feel a little bit better. Now, they don't necessarily have to sleep with other men, but what they may want is the attention and the emotional affirmation from other men. Or, whether it's, oh, you're gorgeous, you're beautiful. And then what she will do is throw out that reminder, well, I'm married, but I'm flattered. What they're trying to do basically is say, well, you know what, I still got it. It's like being stroked in a sense where you feel as though your self-esteem is still intact in some kind of way, because based on the approval of someone else outside of the person in the relationship that may not appreciate you. Guys, on the other hand, don't really need as much attention when it comes to that, because you have a lot of guys that really use their financial prowess or their attitude in order to attract these women, and outside the relationship I'm talking about. And what happens basically is, as they attract these women, what happens is the ego is fed even more depending on the caliber of woman they get in the process. If she is like beautiful, nice body, doesn't necessarily have to have brains, because guys who cheat really are not that into the intellectual types, because a lot of times, ladies, I hate to say it, guys will cheat if you're too brainy and too wordy. They will do that because that right there repels them a lot of times. Not all the time, but it's one of those components that guys kind of figure out early on and say, well, I can deal with this so long. And so what they'll do, they will go have these relationships, have their steady relationship, and then go out and have another relationship where they don't have to deal with that. And unfortunately, it comes down to, them expressing themselves and really discussing problems with the other party that they should have discussed with you. That's one of the aspects of it. Now, when it comes down to the actual act of infidelity, the actual cheating, it's not uncommon for a woman to really run it through her head before she lays down with the guy about all of the things that she has gone through, all the stuff she had to put up with in her relationship to justify her sleeping with the guy. Guys don't do that. We are focused totally on the woman's curves and her body, and we'll worry about all of the other stuff later. If you ever want to mess a guy up, ladies, I shouldn't be telling you this, but if you know the guy's cheating, give him a phone call on the cell phone and just mention the children's names just before he sleeps with the woman. Does it every time. By the same token, ladies, and guys, the thing is, I shouldn't be saying this, but I am. What the hell? If you're in a relationship and she's cheating, she's already needs her self-esteem built up in order for her to do this. Because, see, a woman who has great self-esteem, she doesn't need to cheat. If she can't get along with the guy, she splits. She leaves. And she goes, finds her another guy because she knows what her self-worth is. The thing with any woman that's in these relationships and these extramarital affairs is the fact that they have had to devalue themselves in order to be appreciated by someone else. And that's the bottom line. There's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. Guys, on the other hand, do the same thing, but in a different way. Because the whole thing is they are devaluing themselves for gratification, whether it's to purge or whether it's to have sex. Plain and simple. Now, we're going to talk more about this in part 3. I'm going to be a little bit more concise and a little bit more direct on some of the aspects of infidelity. So tune in. Jausan, Romantic Truth TV.